What's going on, everybody? It's Alex with the WP Creators Club, and I'm super excited to share this video with you. It is a demonstration of our latest plugin, Divi-Attention. And Divi-Attention allows you to create these beautiful pop-up overlays as well as notification bars that will slide in from the top or the bottom of your screen. There's a couple different triggers that you can use to trigger these elements to show themselves. One is a click element, like I will show you here. You can make it, you can target any CSS element, whether it's a certain class or ID, totally up to you. You can do it on exit intent, so when the user moves their mouse out of the active window on the browser and up to maybe the back button or the address bar, you can choose to show a pop-up or a notification bar then. You can do it on a timed delay, where after the page loads, a certain number of seconds later, the element will show up. Or you can do it when the page is scrolled a certain percentage. For example, maybe you have a blog post or an article, and after one of your users scrolls 70 or 80% of the way down the page, maybe you want to show them an email opt-in because they're interested in the content. They've made it 70 or 80% of the way down the page. That's a good time to show them an opt-in for maybe your email list or something like that. So you have those four different triggers. It has 29 different entrance and exit animations, so you can have them enter and exit the screen in a lot of different ways based on kind of the look and the feel of your website, what makes the most sense. And to kind of demonstrate that, I'm going to refresh this page because I have two bars that display on this page, one on the top and one on the bottom. And it's both the same content, so they'll look similar, but they're on a 3-second timer. So the page loads, 3 seconds passes, and now our bars slide in. You'll notice that as I scroll down, the top bar does not follow me, but the bottom one does. And you can change this. You can set either one to be sticky or not sticky. So in this example, I have the bottom bar as a sticky element that follows me. And the top bar is not sticky, so it will stay there at the top and not follow us down the page. It's totally up to you. The other cool thing is that when you close these elements, the user's browser will get a cookie, so they won't be shown the same element again for a certain period of time, which you can set. So here's our attention bar. You'll see that I got this cookie. If I remove this and refresh the page, you'll see that even though I've closed that, we will get those same elements to show themselves again on the page. Right now I have them set on a 3-day delay, but you can change that to be whatever you would like. I'll close them again here. And I'll refresh the page to show you that they're not going to display themselves again because my browser has that cookie. So now we've passed our 3-second timer, and you'll see that they've not loaded up. But our click trigger still works. So our click trigger will always work. That's not on a cookie. The other cool thing that really separates this plugin from some of the other offerings out there is that it uses Divi's native built-in Divi library for the items, and then you use triggers on the page to trigger where and how these items come in. And the reason that I think this works so well compared to the other methods is because you can show the same content in different ways on different pages based on what you want. I think it's a bit more flexible than some of the other solutions. This plugin is also extremely lightweight. It weighs in at just 147 KB compared to some of the other plugins that run a couple megabytes. So it's extremely lightweight, extremely efficient, and it just kind of does what it does very well. Let's jump over to the admin side. I'm going to show you kind of what it adds. So I'm in the visual builder here, and you'll see we have these items. You can add, these are the trigger items. You can add trigger items anywhere that you want on the page. It doesn't really matter. So let me go ahead and add one here. I'll add a new one. And it adds a module called an attention trigger. And here are your options. So what is the content going to be? And these are all items that come from your Divi library. So I will choose, I'll choose this notification. I think that's the one that I was showing up. I'll just show the same one, the same pop-up here, the Creators Club. The attention type, you can either make it a notification bar or a pop-up. If it's a pop-up, you can prevent the page from scrolling. So if I click this, I can't scroll this page up and down while it is shown. It locks the page behind it. So just kind of a little usability thing. You can turn that on or off, totally up to you. If you set it to a notification bar, you get a couple different options. Do you want the bar location on the top or the bottom of the page? And do you want to make it a sticky element that follows you? Completely up to you. In the trigger toggle, this is when we choose how that element gets shown, or when it gets shown rather. So trigger when an element is clicked, exit intent, scroll distance, or timed. If I choose an element as clicked, we get our box where we can specify our click element. Let me go over here to our pop-up notification, and you'll see that our trigger is a click element, and the click element is an item with the class of our click trigger. And if I come over here to our text, and here's our visual view, if I jump into text, you'll see that this element here has a class, this link has a class of our click trigger. That's why it triggers it. So you can set that to be whatever you would like. For example, you could make it, an ID if you want it to have an ID of something. Totally up to you. On exit intent, that's pretty self-explanatory. There's no other options for that. Scroll distance, you can determine how far down the page the user should scroll before it determines. So you have 0, which would show the pop-up or notification bar immediately, or 100% for when they get to the very bottom. And if I change it to timed, you can set the timer in milliseconds, and just as a reminder, there are 1,000 milliseconds in a second. So by default, it's set to 5 seconds. But you could change this to 10 seconds. You can come in here and edit it more if you want it to be 20 seconds. So it's totally up to you how you want to set that. If you have it set to anything other than a click element, you have your close button here, which gives you the option hide after close. When the user closes the attention element, how many days should pass before we show the same user the attention element again? So by default, it's 3. You can set it to whatever. And that's just so every time a user loads the page, they don't have to keep closing the same attention element and possibly get annoyed with your site. Then I'll show you background as well here. Let me close this one actually, and I'll go to the one that's displayed since that one already has a background. If I come down here to background, you'll see we have this gradient set, and that's what we see here. And also, I don't know if you've noticed it or not, let me remove our cookie again here so you can see the bars. But this top bar has a background set. It's a light gray color, and you'll see that kind of there for a split second before it shows up. See? And if I close it, you'll see that there's that gray compared to this one, which does not have a background set. So there's nothing there. So if you want those, really this is most useful for the overlays for this. So it's totally up to you. If you want to set that to be anything you want, you set that right in the trigger. If I go over to design, here's where our entrance and exit animations are, and you'll see that there are quite a few that you can choose from. Again, there's 29 in total for the entrances and exits. So a lot of different options here for that. And then of course you can style your close button. You can hide it if you want altogether, or you can choose the color, the size. There's an option to allow the escape button on the keyboard to close the attention element. Totally up to you. This is a good usability thing, but you can turn it off if you'd like. And then in the advanced section under custom CSS, there is access to the close button and the overlay. If you wanted to write your own custom CSS code there to do other things, you have that option and that ability. All right, so let's jump over to the Divi library real quick, and I'm going to show you this in the Divi library just to kind of give you an idea of how this was put together. So here it is in the Divi library. It's really pretty straightforward. A single section, a single row with 2 columns, an image, text, button, text. And if I jump back over here, you'll see that we've got our image, a text block, a button block, and then a text block again. By default, what you want to do, if you want this overlay to show through, you need to set your section background, section background to be transparent. By default, Divi gives all sections a white background. So if I were to get rid of this and save it, this would be all white probably to about here, and I wouldn't see this gradient overlay. I would probably just see a little bit down here in the bar where the section ended. So if you want your background of your trigger to show through, you just need to make sure that you set your background to be transparent. On the flip side, you don't have to use this background on the trigger. You could design it all right here in the layout if you wanted. If you wanted a background image to show there instead, you can absolutely do that right in your Divi library settings. And you'll notice I've got just a couple size things set here. Like I've got my width set to a max width of 700 pixels. That's how we got it this narrow, because otherwise it would be the normal Divi size, whatever that is. And this will adjust itself based on screen size as well, just like your normal Divi layout will. So anything that you're used to doing and customizing for mobile, you can absolutely do the exact same thing right with your custom element, and you'll be good to go. Let me jump back over here to the Divi library again, and I'm going to show you the notification bars, because those are just slightly different just because I adjusted the size for those to make them more narrow. So that's going to be our join today notification here. And you'll notice, let me pull those back up over here just so you have something to kind of compare it to. And in this example, I made the bars kind of narrow because I wanted that kind of slim look. But again, it will load whatever content you want at the top or the bottom. So it could be, you know, a whole nother page if you wanted. Whatever you build in that Divi library item that you choose is what will be displayed there. So this will load. Again, they're on 3-second timers. So this is a pretty kind of narrow thing here. So let me jump over here, and you'll see that I've got my section for my spacing. I've set the top and bottom padding of the section to 0, and then in my row I've set it to 1%, and that's how we get this kind of narrow kind of slim bar here. But it's totally up to you. You can set it to be whatever you want. That's really all there is to it. You can set as many triggers on a page as you want. Again, the nice thing is you only have to create the content in the library once, and then the trigger is how you choose when and how and where it's displayed. And so I feel like it just gives you a lot more flexibility over those things. The other thing that I did want to mention too is if you hide the this close button, you can still close it if you give the elements a class of close-divi, I think it's maybe close-attention element. But I can click no thanks here, and you'll notice that it closed it right away. So actually, let's see here. I can tell you exactly what it was. I'll post it in the description down below of the video. But you could hide this if you wanted to make your close button just a little piece of text right on your element there, and it will do the same thing. So, all right, cool. That's really all there is to it. I know I crammed a ton of information into a short video, relatively short, probably longer than I wanted. But if you have any questions, let me know. I'm in the process of putting together the knowledge base for all the plugins of the WP Creators Club, where it should hopefully be easy to find answers to commonly asked questions. And also a great way to get in touch with me if you have any questions or suggestions for the plugin. If you have an idea of things that would make it better, I definitely want to hear about it, because we're all in this together. We're a community, and I want to make tools and solutions that make your lives easier. So, all right, cool. I will see you guys in the next video, and happy creating.